Oh, hello, great readers. I'm Bo-Chen.
I'm Nimikon.
I'm Ven Chan.
In this class, I'll read all of you a part of A Tale of Two Cities, Book the Third, Golden Thread.
Yes.
L.
A Tale of Two Cities, Book the Third, Golden Thread. Charles Dickens. Chap. 10 The substance of the Chateau Sec 4. And this. 2. I resolved to state in my letter. I had no apprehension whatever of my real danger, but I was conscious that there might be danger for others, if others were compromised by possessing the knowledge that I possessed. I was much engaged that day, and could not complete my letter that night. I rose long before my usual time next morning to finish it. It was the last day of the year. The letter was lying before me just completed, when I was told that a lady waited. He wished to see me. I am growing more and more unequal to the task I have set myself. It is so cold, so dark. My senses are so benumbed, and the gloom upon me is so dreadful. The lady was young, engaging, and handsome, but not marked full on life. She was in great agitation. She presented herself to me as the wife of the Marquis Street of Amend. I connected the title by which the boy had addressed the elder brother with the initial letter embroidered on the scarf, and had no difficulty in arriving at the conclusion that I had seen that nobleman very lately. My memory is still accurate, but I cannot write the words of our conversation. I suspect that I am watched more closely than I was, and I know not of what times I may be watched. She had in part suspected, and in part discovered, the main facts of the cruel story, of her husband's share in it, and my being resorted to. She did not know that the girl was dead. Her hope had been, she said in great distress, to show her, in secret, a woman's sympathy. Her hope had been to avert the wrath of heaven from a house that had been hateful to the suffering many. She had reasons for believing that there was a young sister living, and her greatest desire was to help that sister. I could tell her nothing but that there was such a sister. Beyond that, I knew nothing. Her inducement to come to me, relying on my confidence, had been the hope that I could tell her the name and place of abode. Whereas, to this wretched hour I am ignorant of both. These scraps of paper fill me. One was taken from me, with a warning, yesterday. I must finish my record today. She was a good, compassionate lady, and not happy in her marriage. How could she be? The brother distrusted and disliked her, and his influence was all opposed to her. She stood in dread of him, and in dread of her husband too. When I handed her down to the door, there was a child, a pretty boy from 2 to 3 years old, in her carriage. For his sake, Doctor, she said, pointing to him in tears, I would do all I can to make whatever amends I can. He will never prosper in his inheritance otherwise. I have a presentiment that if no other innocent atonement is made for this, it will one day be required of him. She kissed the boy and said, caressing him, it is for thine own dear sake. Thou wilt be faithful. Little Charles? The child answered her bravely. Yes. I kissed her hand, and she took him in her arms, and went away caressing him. I never saw her more. As she had mentioned her husband's name in the faith that I knew it, I did no mention of it to my letter. I sealed my letter, and not trusting it out of my own hands, delivered it myself that day. That night, the last night of the year, towards 9 o'clock, a man in a black dress rang at my gate, demanded to see me, and softly followed my servant, Ernest Defarge, a youth, up the stairs. When my servant came into the room where I sat with my wifey and my wife, beloved of my heart, my fair young English wife, we saw the man, who was supposed to be at the gate, standing silent behind him. An urgent case in the Rue Street. Oh no, he said. It would not detain me. He had a coach in waiting. It brought me here. It brought me to my grave. When I was clear of the house, a black muffler was drawn tightly over my mouth from behind, and my arms were pinioned. The two brothers crossed the road from a dark corner and identified me with a single gesture. The Marquis took from his pocket the letter I had written, showed it me, burnt it in the light of a lantern that was held, and extinguished the ashes with his foot. Not a word was spoken. I was brought here. I was brought to my living grave. If it had pleased God to put it in the hard heart of either of the brothers, in all these frightful years, to grant me any tidings of my dearest wife so much as to let me know, by a word whether alive, O.G.D. might have thought that he had not quite abandoned them. But now I believe that the mark of the Red Cross is fatal to them, and that they have no part in his mercies, and them and their descendants, to the last of their race. Alexander Manette, unhappy prisoner. To this last night of the year 1767, in Mayan Berbalagani, denounced to the times when all these things shall be unsaid for. A terrible sound arose when the reading of this document was done. A sound of craving and eagerness that had nothing articulate in it but blood. The narrative called up the most revengeful passions of the time, and there was not a head in the nation but must have dropped before it. Little need, in presence of that tribunal and that auditory, to show how the Defarges had not made the paper public, with all their captured Basto memorials borne in procession, and has kept it, biding their time. Little need to show that this detested family name had long been anathematized by Saint Antoine, and was wrought into the fatal register. The men never trod ground whose virtues and services would have sustained him in that place that day. Against such denunciation, and all the worse for the doomed man, that the denouncer was a well-known citizen, his own attached friend, the father of his wife. One of the frenzied aspirations of the populace was for imitations of the questionable public virtues of antiquity, and for sacrifices and self-immolations on the people's altar. Therefore, when the president Sedos had his own head covered on his shoulders, that the good physician of the Republic would deserve better still of the Republic by rooting out an obnoxious family of aristocrats, and would doubtless feel a sacred glow and joy in making his daughter a widow, and her child an orphan. There was wild excitement, patriotic fervour, not a touch of human sympathy. Much influence around him. Has that doctor? Murmured Madame Defarge, smiling to the vengeance. At every German's vote, there was a roar. Other and another. Or an roar. Unanimously voted. At heart and by descent an aristocrat, an enemy of the Republic, a notorious oppressor of the people. Back to the conciergerie, and death within 24 hours. To be continued.